Okay, here's the conundrum that is facing many marketers and, for that matter, agencies as well at the moment. There is so much data available to business. It's doubling each year, I'm told. But does it still give a brand a competitive edge? And that is a question that is posed by Jacques Burger, Chief Executive Officer of M&C Saachi Abel here in Johannesburg. Welcome and thanks very much for talking to us. I know this might seem like a very naive question to start with. What data are we actually talking about?
So, Jeremy, I think that we're really talking about data pertaining to customer behavior. So as we get to know more about our customers through loyalty programs, through how they utilize financial services products such as credit cards, we start to develop a really good understanding of what people are doing, what they're buying. We get a sense of, what media they're consuming, where they're going, what they do as hobbies. And I think that as brands, as we become more and more obsessed about understanding the customer, we have increasingly access to all of this data. So, I can as a brand have a really good understanding.
So that's a good thing, but you pose the interesting question then. Does it actually give the brand a competitive edge? What's your thinking?
Yeah, so I think that, whilst there is all this great data and whilst we have access to it, there is so much of it that it becomes very easy for a brand to drown in all of that data. And I think that often what we are seeing is that the right kind of questions are not being asked up front, and the strategy that gets applied in terms of how that data is collected is not really well thought out. So you end up with a whole host of data that actually you look back and you kind of go as a brand, well, why did we collect all of that data in the first instance? What were we hoping to learn? We're not quite sure. And now we've got all this data that we're going to try and make sense of. And there's so much of it that it becomes very hard to understand what is relevant data and what is actually irrelevant data.
I understand the front of data argument, and we can talk in just a moment about what type of questions then are optimum in order to mine the data properly.
Yes.
But having said that, is there not a back-end argument to it as well, that it's good to have all of this information? The reality is often we simply, or you simply, don't know how to interpret it.
Yeah, I think it's great to have all of the information, of course. But I think the risk is that what we're seeing in a lot of businesses and what a lot of brands tend to do is that having all that data seems to put them in a comfort position where they go, great, we've got all of this data. But
now
data doesn't.
Let's
sit on it, exactly. Yeah. And data doesn't necessarily translate into insights. So, what we've seen examples of is where you go into an organization, heaps and heaps of data, just trying to extract that data, trying to get the right set of data to get to an insight becomes incredibly problematic because it's not well managed.
So, Jacques Burger, what you're saying is it would become easier at the back end if the front end was better designed. Yeah. In other words, better questions.
That's exactly right.
So what should you be asking?
That's exactly right. So, let's say you are a retailer in the apparel space. And you're one of my customers, Jeremy. Asking where you live or whether you have children or not, does that really matter when I'm looking to sell you a suit? Asking what your income level is might be of use, but maybe not, because maybe you're one of those people who like to spend a lot of money on suits. There's a whole lot of data that we might have on your current behavior. So what are you buying in terms of clothing items at the moment? But does that really give us the insight that we are looking for? So I think that what tends to happen is there's a broad question around let's better understand the customer versus actually saying how is it that we want to transact with this customer? And therefore, what are the relevant bits of information that we're looking for?
How do you convince brands then to get away from that template model that you've just referred to, to ask all those easy questions up front? They will cling on to that, Jacques. They will say, this is really important.
Yeah, I think what we've got to look at is to bring the strategy of communication much closer to the capturing of data. So what we're finding is that within a lot of organizations, the capturing of data, the IT systems, the processes that are set up happen in isolation of the communication strategy. And I think bringing those two together and actually saying from a communications perspective, if we're able to partner and better inform the mining of data and what the right kind of questions are to be asking, rather than just a broad kind of landscape, I think that's helpful.
And then just in conclusion, you also say the data is all well and good, but it can't replace the decision making of managers as human beings. We tend to abrogate the human touch, don't we, in favor of all of this data to the detriment of a brand.
Yeah, That's exactly right. So I think that what we tend to see as well is a certain set of data would present itself, and that gets put down as the be-all and end-all driving every decision. And there is a level of human intervention where you've got to look at a set of data and go, this is what the data might tell us, but what else is out there? You know, you can look at a particular set of data that doesn't necessarily tell you the whole picture. I mean, there's a lovely example of Nike Plus in the US where they did research and collected a whole lot of data around that technology, and the research told them that the product would fail. Customers didn't understand it, didn't like it, didn't buy into it, and at some point someone had to sit back and go, the reason why that data presents in that way is because people have never seen this before. They've never utilized it. So to them, it's completely foreign. What we've got to do as managers is sit back and go, do we understand the psyche of a runner? Do we have a real insight there? And do we know what this product is going to deliver? And we think if we put those two things together, we can have something magical. So one's got to be very careful to just be led by data. At some point, you know, we can't abdicate the decision-making onus that rests on all of us as marketers and as business owners, brand owners.
Jacques Burger, thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.